So we thought while we're waiting for our veg, while we're waiting for the dinner to actually make, we'll just talk to you a little bit about, traditional food in England. A lot of people have been asking us about it, and hence us making a Sunday dinner with you today. I suppose neither of us really knew about the history of Sunday dinner until literally about 20 minutes ago, and we're like, we should probably look this up in case, we need to tell them.
Yeah, so why is it that you have this particular kind of like roast dinner on a Sunday?
Yeah, and I think it dates back to, I think it was like the 19th century, I think sometime like that, where it was traditional in like, for being a Christian, I think, to not eat meat on like a Friday or a Saturday. So it made people want to eat more meat on a Sunday. So they made this very meaty dinner, which has now obviously just evolved, and like we said before, it's such a personal meal. Every single Christmas dinner, every single Sunday dinner in every family will look different. Each family has their own traditions with it. And it's also interesting to know that like people have them at different times, don't they? Like you can really have, I know it's called a Sunday dinner, and a dinner to us is traditionally
the
evening time, like we're having it now. But it's also really common in England for people to have like a light breakfast, so like a really like small breakfast, and then have this big dinner around 12, 1.
Yeah, you have it as like a lunch instead. I guess it's because it is quite big and you don't want to have it in the evening, and often you have family around for it. So Sunday lunch is often when like my grandparents will come over, or if you're celebrating something like, for example, Mother's Day today. In the UK, I don't know if it is in I don't know where else celebrates Mother's Day today, but then everyone will be having a Sunday lunch
dinner,
for Mother's Day. So like in my family today, like my grandma is with my family, and they've all had a Sunday lunch together. And we would do the same on like Father's Day or any other, like especially say like these like special Sundays, like Mother's Day, Father's Day.
And I mean, you'll see how we're going to dish it up later, but when you have these like traditional meals as like with other people, like with your family for Christmas, it's typical for you to just put all the veg in one plate, isn't it? And then everybody kind of dishes up for themselves. You don't usually have everything plated and given to you, like we're going to do it now. You would usually have like a big buffet, I suppose, and you can kind of just choose.
Especially with Christmas, and there's lots of different components, and like not everyone's going to want all of the different components. Like really divisive meal components at Christmas are Brussels sprouts, which most people don't like. Parsnips are also, not everyone likes parsnips, and then some people want more potatoes than others. So and like how much meat you might want. So especially like Christmas dinner is a serve yourself kind of thing. You just have everything and then you take what you want.
A Sunday dinner, not so much. I suppose it's sort of like the Sunday dinner is like the less formal Christmas dinner. Christmas dinner is so much more formal. And usually you have obviously like your fancy I don't know, does your mum have, my mum really dresses up our table.
Oh my gosh, dinner. It's my mum, like when she sets the table on Christmas Eve, so that it's like there on display. And my mum, so she'll have like these like fake jewels and like glitter that she puts on the table, and it like looks really fancy. But a Sunday dinner you wouldn't have that. Like a Sunday dinner is what we would call like pub food, I suppose. Exactly, yes. It's also, a lot of people don't actually cook one at home. You go to a pub on a Sunday. So if you go to any pub in the UK on a Sunday, they won't have a normal menu. They will just have their Sunday lunch menu. So that's something I've also done.
Some restaurants as well in England. I don't think it's necessarily
not just pubs. Actually, most restaurants, more like sort of your independent.
You have like your main menu and then your Sunday menu. But I think if we're going to talk about traditional food, we've got to talk about pub food. Because I think pubs are such a big thing in England. I grew up on pub food. We used to go on like various little places near me called like Corbridge. I don't know if you've heard of it. Probably not. No, places like Corbridge, Hexham, those sorts of places, which are very small places near me in Newcastle. They have pubs, and we used to go all the time. So what you get, your fish and chips is classed as pub food, but you can also obviously get that at the beach. A lot of people get that at the beach.
Basically, I've said this to classes before, but like what you can order off of the menu in a pub, like that is your stereotypical English food. That is like all English food you find in a pub.
So it wouldn't be like, okay, I want to go to this restaurant because I want Italian food. It's I want to go to a pub because I want English food. And a lot of, I think it's common in places like Spain and stuff, isn't it, where they have like an English pub that you can go to, and then it serves like Spanish versions of the English food. So you get like fish and chips, a roast dinner, scampi and chips, which is like battered prawn. I think a lot of our food's just battered, isn't it? It's just battered food.
Battered or fried.
So you've got like your scampi and chips. What else? Pies are very popular in England.
The classic one is like a steak and ale pie.
Mince, corned beef pie. There's probably the top three. Again, gravy with vegetables.
Those chips. vegetables, gravy.
Yeah.
That's where you used to have something like toad in the hole. So toad in the hole is a good one to talk about because it's a weird name. I looked it up and no one really knows where it's come from. But it's a dish where you have sausages in Yorkshire pudding. So you make a big
giant Yorkshire pudding
with lots of sausages in it.
Sort of probably similar to the Yorkshire pudding we're gonna make.
That's what I've made Yorkshire pudding here, and I've made it in that dish. And I've just put like 2 sausages in, and you make your Yorkshire pudding batter and you pour it over. So then the batter cooks around the sausages.
We used to have, I don't know if you did it, like in our toad in the hole, like my dad used to put like caramelized onion in the gravy, and then when you pour it over, you've got like little pieces of onion.
That's actually like that's what you'd get if you go to like a pub. You tend to have, so you have like your bangers and mash, or your bangers and mashes.
It's sausages and mash,
or toad in the hole with like an onion gravy.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But I think pub food is the traditional English food. It's very different to here. I think, you know, there's not a lot of food I've had here that reminds me of home.
No, definitely.
But also we haven't really been to restaurants or cafes, have we?
No, we've not really had a chance. But definitely, like if you want to experience British food, like just go down to a pub. You can tell pubs because pubs all have similar names. They're all
quite like old looking buildings, aren't they?
They're often old traditional buildings that have been taken over by a pub, but they'll all be called like the
ship
of Wales,
in, or something in.
The lamb and flag.
The Black Bull, like those sorts of things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, they've all got very similar names like Red Lion.
If you're ever in England, you walk past an old-fashioned building, you think that's a really bizarre name. Like the Three Barrels, I think, is a one.
They've always got really old-fashioned names and it will have a history to it. Like there'll be a reason why it's called that. But that's like, and ordering off that menu, that is where you'll find like your traditional British food. And there's British food, and it's got quite there isn't like I wouldn't say there's, whereas I'd say Italian food you can identify because it's mostly pasta dishes or pizza things, like it's things along those lines.
I don't think there's one cohesive.
There's not one. We just have lots of different types of.
I suppose maybe if you were going to try and like summarize the majority of like what our food is, it tends to be like hot gravy, like hot meals with gravy, some sort of meaty thing with vegetables.
Veg potato is a very British. So that the whole concept of roast dinner is you've got your meat, your potatoes, and your veg.
I think most of it, like a toad in the hole, is just meats with gravy and Yorkshire pudding. Other than that, there's not really, I always say this, I don't feel like there's a strong sense of culture necessarily in England, especially with food, other than like maybe 10 dishes.
And they've not necessarily all got huge histories. They've kind of just been adopted into British culture.
They're just very traditional. I mean, do you usually have a Sunday dinner every Sunday? Yeah.
But in winter though, it's a wintry thing. So you wouldn't do it in summer because obviously it's a lot of cooking.
It's a hot food, and
so it's not a summer thing. So that's why I love it when you get to autumn and suddenly my mum's like, right, Sunday roast.
I think typically as well, it's usually, I mean, my dad takes over for Christmas dinner, but for a Sunday dinner, it's typically, I don't know if you're the same, it's typically the woman of the house who will make it. My grandma will always make my Sunday dinner for me. Because it's time consuming, especially if you're doing meat. Usually the way they do meat, like on Christmas, it takes like 4 or 5 hours to make the meat. So it's a time consuming thing, really.
And then often on a Sunday as well, because we're talking about winter, like what we will then have as a dessert is maybe a crumble or a pie.
And
like apple pie, and blackberry crumble, any of those things. So
that's just basically cooked apple with a bit of
so either in pastry or you make like
it's almost like crumble is basically you get flour with a bit of butter and you rub it together until it sort of resembles what a bread crumb would look like, and then when you cook it, it goes really crispy, doesn't it? But it's sugary and crispy, and then it like obviously complements the savory sort of crispness of the apple, I suppose.
And then you have custard with that, which is like vanilla sauce, but it's hot.
So and sticky toffee pudding, I suppose, is also a very sticky toffee pudding is like a pudding that you make with dates. So a pudding, I suppose, is a very English thing. Like I would always say, oh, what's for pudding just means what is for dessert. It's just a dessert. But a pudding's like it's sort of like a cake, isn't it? But not a cake. So a sticky toffee pudding, I think, is made with dates.
Yes, it's very spongy, but quite like a dense sponge.
And it's some sort of like toffee sauce on the top. And usually you would have that with custard.
We often have sponge puddings, which are just exactly what a sticky toffee pudding is, just without like that like datey toffee sauce. Which just has syrup. So we have this thing called golden syrup, which is kind of like
it's like a maple syrup, but
like a maple syrup,
and not as
but it's not
nutty.
Like,
it's not nutty. It's just
sugary. And with those in, and then again,
I used to have like porridge for breakfast because my dad once showed me that you could put golden syrup in porridge.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
But he used to put like a squeeze in, and I used to like drench my porridge was basically golden syrup, which as a kid I didn't think was weird. But now I look back and I'm like, no, I was eating sugar. Like I was literally eating like it was golden syrup with a side of porridge. Yeah. There was like there was no porridge in there.
Oh my god, we're not talking about a cooked breakfast.
Oh,
we're just making Britain sound very, very unhealthy here.
So the best thing is so we'll call it a fry up, don't we?
All day breakfast, fried breakfast, cooked breakfast,
and it's or the full English. Full English is what it's called as well. And basically it's eggs of your choice. It's typically fried, but you can have scrambled eggs. Sometimes poached eggs, but if you have poached eggs with a full English breakfast, you're doing it wrong. Because a fried breakfast, the whole point is it's fried and fried,
everything
and poached is a bit healthier. So it's fried eggs with sausages, bacon, beans, Heinz beans, like baked beans, toast.
So often not just toast, usually. You often have fried toast.
Fried bread with fried mushrooms, a grilled tomato, and hash browns. Hash browns make it a full English. They're like basically potato that's like really
it's like potato and onion in like a coating that's then deep fat fried.
An American hash brown is very different to a British hash brown though. If you get the chance, have a little look at like Google a picture of a hash brown. They are absolutely delicious. If you've ever been to, I don't know if the McDonald's here does it, but in England we do hash browns and McDonald's don't for breakfast. So if you've ever seen a McDonald's hash brown, that's what they look like. But obviously for us as vegetarians, we don't typically have that. There's also black pudding, isn't there, on a meat one?
So black pudding is a blood sausage, which is very similar. You have a blood sausage in Germany and Austria, but so it's just a very dark sausage.
And each I'm assuming each nation will have their own, because I think you can get haggis on a Scottish breakfast.
Yeah, you would. I think
which you would never get. Haggis is like sheep intestine, right? You would never get that on an English one because it's not an English delicacy. But for us vegetarians, what I usually have, a couple of eggs, some fried mushrooms, some beans, maybe bread, but I find bread a bit redundant. There's no point on toast on a fried breakfast for me. I suppose if you're having the bacon.
At my bakery, I don't own it, just work there. But they do chips with one as well.
Wow. Oh yeah, and a lot of people do like.
I think that's incorrect because I don't know how you can have chips for breakfast. But
they do like potatoes, some of them as well. Like you can get a whole range of them. They really change, but an English fry up it's usually the perfect hangover cure, I find as well.
And
if you've had too much to drink.
It's a whole way. It's a lot of food that's set shop for the day. So like it's the kind of thing that I would have like if we've gone on a holiday, like as a family somewhere in the UK, and we're gonna go out walking all day. Would have like a fry up in the morning. It's your like really big breakfast.
That'll keep you going.
You're not going to have it at 7 o'clock in the morning. No,
you typically have it later. It's like a brunch thing, right?
You've got to be ready for it. It's a lot of food, but obviously, like traditionally a fry out would be this massive meal, but you can now just have like,
you can have fried eggs, beans,
you can just have bits of it. So if you go into any kind of cafe, so your like local cafe bakery will have a whole all day breakfast menu, and they'll have like different variations of it. You might just have like the eggs and the bacon.
It's typical they'll say on the menu it'll say like full English, which is,
and it'll be like option 1,
your full English, like we've said.
3.
And then they might say like, I think there's things called like eggs royale, which an eggs royale is like poached eggs with salmon, I think, and it's called hollandaise sauce. It's just a sauce that you can add on.
Mustardy mayonnaise. My bakery will have we have the standard full English, and then they have another one which is just everything, just more of it. And they have another one which is more like you have then the veggie version, which they do vegetarian sausages with, but essentially just remove the meat elements, have more egg.
A lot of it's just like vegetables mushed together, and then you can have but it's just like vegetables together.
But then you might like also very, very typical that you'd get in like a cafe, you'd have like bacon sandwich. Obviously they're called different things in different parts of the world.
You can say like bacon. I would say bacon buddy, but you can so you can I don't know if this is a northern thing, this may be a northern thing. If you go to the coast and you go to like a restaurant, if you don't want, because there's a difference between like fish and chips and restaurant fish and chips, isn't there? Like you can go in a pub and have fish and chips, or you can go to a beach hut and buy fish and chips there, which you usually just get in a box and you eat it out of the box. It's not a sit down meal, which a lot of people obviously do to eat on the beach. But in the northeast of England, we have chip butties.
Oh my god, a chip butty.
So you'll have like a slice of bread, chips, sauce.
So that's bread, all we have whenever we have fish and chips. we then have a chip bite.
Yeah.
We tend to do it in bread, not a roll. It's
yeah, we
like,
do it in bread.
Potato in bread, but I cannot express to you how good it is.
It's so nice.
It's so comforting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely, you can also get all of those various options in a sandwich or in a roll. We do.
I think there is what's called like bacon bomb, bacon.
So you can have bacon sausages, just bacon sausages. And my bakery as well, we do bacon sausage, egg and hash brown in a sandwich. So it's literally a whole breakfast in a sandwich. Or you can have like scrambled egg and smoked salmon.
I think this is what, I think this is why we're so different from like you guys, for example, because breakfast in England is a big meal. Like it's so common if you go out to a cafe.
This is one, like if you're at home, you will just have like
cereal or something. But if you're going out for breakfast, you wouldn't have like, you wouldn't go, I'm just going to pop to the bakery and get a croissant, or I'm going to go and get a pastry. You would have a big meal. So I think coming here has been really weird, because you walk in a shop and you're like, they only have croissants. I need something more.
I did notice is that like if you definitely a lot of the bakeries that I've just before they all closed, that I looked at their breakfast menus, they did have quite similar things, but nothing along the scale of like the bacon sausage. But it was still like, there were lots healthier. It was like avocado and things, but they weren't like
avocado and toast,
that kind of brunch. I don't know how big brunch is here, but brunch where you have this like savoury sort of like often like eggs, maybe sausages, bacon, avocado, those kind of things as your like brunch.